Hi, it's Anne-Marie from Charmed Life Therapy again. I wasn't going to make a Blake Lively video today, and then it's just like crazy right now. There's so much stuff coming out. I kind of should block out without a crystal ball for a while, I think. She's being far too good and far too on point with everything that's going on. But kind of, I just want to reiterate a point of mine that's quite controversial. This idea of trying to have a little bit of sympathy for Blake Lively. Because do you know what hits me today more than anything is just you kind of have to have sympathy for her in a way, because I think the actions of everybody around her and the little world she's created for herself because of the things that she values and her own moral compass. It's a life without love, really. There's not a person around her really anymore that genuinely loves and cares for her, because Ryan doesn't. Because if you truly love somebody, you know when to tell them to stop. You know what I mean? And it hurts Ryan nothing if she ruins her own career. I mean, I say if, she already has, really. You know what I mean? I think most of us out there feel like Ryan's quite happy if she's at home looking after kids or pregnant with the next one or whatever it is. I don't think he gives a stuff whether she's got a movie career or not in his heart of hearts. So it matters little to him if she loses her career or her reputation as such. It only kind of harms him in terms of if his businesses loses. I think he probably feels quite secure in his little Deadpool environment and his little Netflix contracts and the rest of it, that he can continue to make movies and finance his greater aspirations, which seems to be his businesses as much as anything. I think kind of Ryan recognises there's like a cap on his acting career, so he's more focused on business. So it matters not to him really, in a way, what happens to Blake's career as such. I'm not really talking about reputations of them as a couple in a way, but it doesn't matter to him if she has to stay at home, if she can't go out and do acting. So, but then you've got people like her mother, you know, and I think this tells us a lot, because most mothers that are reasonably loving and caring and supporting would see all of this that was going on and would say, stop. It's time to stop. This isn't going anywhere. It's hurting you. It's hurting your children. This is not the way to do it. And the other thing I would say about Ryan as well is all he has to really say is, I'm not financing this anymore. We're done. We're out of there. You know, and it would stop because she can't finance it on her own. So, you know what I mean? If he really loves his wife, he would be stopping this by now. He would be looking for avenues. He wouldn't be allowing it to continue. He wouldn't be allowing her to self-destruct in public like he is. I mean, right now, I mean, stuff's coming out now, but it's actually happened months ago. You've got kind of, I mean, they've come out with a whole list of new things of Ryan and Blake, and I was listening to Without a Crystal Ball thinking I'm supposed to be trying to keep track of this so I can relate it in my own terms, in my own video. I think, oh no, there's too much going on here. I can only do it in general terms. It's just this idea of they're now trying to put a bunch of sanctions on Wayfarer, and also trying to kind of, before even all of the motions for dismissal have been dealt with, they're now trying to sue, you know, for kind of this idea of sanctioning them, that Wayfarer brought a frivolous lawsuit and that they should get some kind of payoff for their lawyers' fees and all of the rest of it, for them bringing a frivolous lawsuit. So him defending himself against accusations of sexual harassment and the astroturfing and all of the rest of it, that is a frivolous lawsuit in Blake Lively's eyes, or in the eyes of her legal team. And the thing is, even a legal team doesn't care about her, do they? Because they could put the foot down. They could say, this is as far as I'm prepared to go. We're looking stupid in this, whatever it is, but they just keep taking the money. They keep taking the money and taking the money and taking the money. And Blake is having them do absolutely crazy, irrational things. I do not believe for a second that these would be actions that this law firm was taking if they weren't absolutely kind of being strong-armed or, you know, dealing with irrational people that you can't talk to. But you see, if that were my law firm, I'd be just saying, cut them off as a client. I don't care how much money they have, that would be me. But everybody's moral compass is different, isn't it? But that's what I'm saying. All of these people around Blake do not care about her because they wouldn't be allowing this situation to persist at this point because she's looking really stupid. Because all of that about her filing that original California Civil Rights Department thing, at that point, the kind of, from what little I understand, the normal process there would be for somebody to look into it on her behalf related to that original claim that she made. And she turned that down. She didn't want that happening because she didn't want it looking into. We know this. But then kind of that automatically triggered that WAFO, as normal business practice and to be seen to be doing the right thing, would have to launch an independent internal investigation. So any business will tell you, you hire like an independent company of lawyers or whatever it is to investigate. It's just normal business practice and it's on the business to pay for that. That doesn't mean the business is controlling the investigation. It's just normal business practice, you know, to be seen to be doing good on behalf of your attorney. So her own actions triggered that. So now, just recently, it turns out that she's obviously got problems with this because she doesn't want it happening. And they're trying to raise this issue. I mean, they're targeting that poor firm now that were just trying to do the job they were hired to do. And she's saying all kinds of things like, you don't have the right to ask for information. You're jeopardising, you know, the legal case. You don't have these powers of subpoena. You shouldn't be trying to influence this witness. You shouldn't be doing this. You don't have the right, blah, 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 blah. This is like some kind of targeted thing to undermine my actual case and blah, blah. And she will not cooperate with their investigation, but she has a problem with everybody else that's talking to it. And it seems like her objection to all of this is aimed at everybody except Justin. You know, everybody concerned is a problem in this, apart from Justin. So I don't understand the full scope of that. I'm sure one of you do out here that's kind of more switched on when talking about the legalities. But they've responded beautifully, I think, today with this wonderful letter that tells them we're doing completely normal things here. It's completely normal practice. We're well within our rights. We're not coercing anybody. And you saying this, and this is actually, you know, really a problem with us, really. You know, you're trying to do things that are just inappropriate yourself. We're not the ones that are acting inappropriately. So these people are trying to finish off this investigation, and Blake will not cooperate. She doesn't want to talk with them. But her legal team want all of the information that this independent body have gathered. They want to know who they've talked to, all of the whys, wherefores, and all of it. And it's just nobody kind of witnessing the legal arguments and all of that can actually just believe it's happening, really. It's absolutely insane that she can't see past her own world view and that all of this is being done to her. She's got no concept, it seems, of culpability, right or wrong. At this point, I don't think any one of us thinks she understands that she's done anything wrong in any of this, that somehow the world works outside of her being right. And that's the thing, that's what I'm saying. As much as you can look at her actions and see how hurtful it is and how much Justin has lost and all of the rest of it, I'm sure I think somewhere he'll be looking at it and kind of feels terrible that she's imploding in this manner. And I'm sure he's looking at it more in terms of all the devastation it's wreaking. And the thing is, even the love of her children won't be authentic, wonderful love of a child if she is raising her children in the manner in which it would seem that she's been raised. You know, even that won't be like a normal kind of love. You know, You know, when you think of that birthday cake that she made for the 1-year-old boy, and it was a set of boobs, and she kind of cavalierly said, oh, well, what else does he want at that age? What else is he interested in? Only boobs. But it's like that is just such an adult thing, isn't it? It's almost a sexual thing in not a very nice way to give your baby a boob cake. It's saying more about you than it is the baby, because you're not telling me there isn't one book she's showing him, one TV program that he's interested in, one character, one teddy, a family pet that they couldn't have made a cake out of, you know, other than a set of boobs. I think that says more about her mentality, and that I'm all he needs, I'm all he's interested in. It's just a bit distasteful, isn't it? So if they're bringing up their children in this more adult-like manner of bringing in adult influences and things like that very, very young, kind of things that are a bit disturbing, like what happened with Inez on the set of Deadpool and Wolverine, things that are confusing to children, well, then that's going to impact her relationship with her children. And you know, those kind of relationships with your children, when there's like a sense of uneasiness and that, and children not quite knowing where they are, there's never a true connection there. There's never that feeling of being secure with a parent. You can't possibly feel secure with your parent when they act irrationally and they do things that make you uncomfortable on a regular basis, or they expose you to things that make you uncomfortable, you know, or people that make you uncomfortable either. And that's what I'm saying. Where is the love in this scenario on Blake Lively's side? Because if nothing else, you would be cutting it off for the sake of the kids, because those kids have got to grow up in the public eye now with all of that reputation hanging over them before they're even out of nappies, some of them, you know what I mean? It's like, I think that's where you kind of can draw a little bit of sympathy, if you want to call it sympathy, for the plight that they've got themselves into, because that environment is not a loving environment, and that is the environment that they exist in, where it's about making people feel uncomfortable, it's about snarky humour, it's about one-upmanship, it's about pushing boundaries of people. It's, you know, teaching your children this is what standing up for women and girls looks like, when how many women and girls are being damaged throughout this? You know, what about the 2 female assistant directors that got booted off the film? They were women. Did they have children, female children? You know what I mean? And that's it really, isn't it? It's the devastation that there's not one person, like even Hugh Jackman. Like, I really liked Hugh Jackman, and through all of the, you see, she's ruined even you. You know, Hugh Jackman was sort of like untouchable in Hollywood, wasn't he? All around good guy, liked across the board by most people. And now everybody's going, oh God, he's really questionable, isn't he? You know, why is he still friends with Ryan? Why isn't he saying anything? He must be supporting this. He took part in all that weird promo and wore the cardigan that, what was the weird cardigan thing and the promo. People that don't know what I'm talking about will be going, what's she on about? It's that weird promo they did for It Ends With Us that didn't feature Justin Baldoni, but they all had matching cardigans on for some weird strange reason that is some weird sub-joke, no doubt. But yeah, now Hugh Jackman, it's like if you're a genuine friend and you've been friends with people for over a decade and you see how they're imploding, don't you go up to them and say, man, it's got to stop? Or, you know, like if he's still having these daily walks with Ryan Reynolds in the park and they're having these heart-to-hearts or whatever it is, why don't you say, Ryan, just cut it off at the pockets, just stop paying. Just stop paying for this thing. You got to shut it down, it's ruining your lives. Or is there something on the side going on that Ryan's already planning his exit strategy? And so he looks at this as paying what he has to pay. You know, is it that he wants it to look nuts so that when he makes his exit, she's left on her own looking like a nut job, like it was all her? And all of that? Is that the strategy? So either way, what I'm saying is, if you look kind of at it, it's a very sad, very lonely, very isolating place to be, Blake Lively, because nobody kind of is genuinely helping her. You know, she looks at support as people constantly saying yes and doing what she says. That's not somebody loving her or taking care of her, is it? It's, you know, they're just, they're kind of helping her implode. And I mean, even in terms of like Taylor Swift and people having a little joke about, well, Taylor can write about this and, you know, the next album and all of that. But really, she doesn't need to write another song about Blake specifically, because Taylor's got a whole catalogue of songs that could be appropriate to Blake Lively. Bad Blood came on the radio just before I came on, and I think, oh, this could more or less be written about Blake. Go look at the lyrics of that. That's kind of the sadness of it. It's a cliche that Taylor doesn't even need to write a song about it, because half a dozen, if not more, already exist that would be appropriate. There's nothing new or unusual enough about Blake to warrant a whole song of her own, I don't think, and that's a bit sad, really. She is kind of a set of cliches at this point. You know, she's not even highly intelligent, which would make her unusual or particularly Machiavellian, if you like. She's just stubborn, self-defeating, doesn't accept any accountability, wants to blame everything for everybody else, all of which are a kind of weak position. It speaks of being, you know, people think like she's strong, but it's actually what would classify as being a weak person. A strong person can accept when they're wrong and change things. A weak person is a person that hangs on for grim death to their own point of view, isn't it? So in that, I can have a little bit of sympathy for her. But it is, you know, I do feel for the companies around her, not so much her own lawyers, because as I say, they should be putting her in a place at this point and saying, you know, you're making us look stupid. Because even in terms of how her lawyers, Blake, have had to approach this company doing the independent investigation of the set of It Ends With Us, you know, that investigation company managed to make her team look ridiculous with all of the complaints that they launched against their investigation. Their response was just so perfect and said, you're making absolutely no sense. What we're doing here is absolutely normal practice. You're the one doing weird things. We don't need to have subpoena powers. We're just conducting an investigation, and people can not talk to us if they don't want to talk to us. We're not, if they want to have an attorney there, they can have an attorney there. We're not compelling anybody to do anything. We're trying to do what your client instigated by filing that CRD complaint. That made this necessary, because Wayfarer, if they want to stay in business and be seen to be doing the right thing, they have to follow certain procedures and protocols. And one of the main problems for this investigation company is that Blake never filed a harassment complaint. She never went to the right body while she was making that movie. There was nothing. So at that point, the company kind of has to investigate why there was no original HR complaint, what Wayfarer knew about it. They kind of have to, even when there's no evidence, they can't, and there's no, because there's no evidence of a complaint, they then just have to do an investigation anyway, just to make sure that there was nothing fudged and there was no reason anybody was coerced into not making an official complaint. So she's done it all, really. And the problem is, because there was no sexual harassment in the first place, so there was no reason for her to go to HR and say that there was. But then she filed a civil rights complaint, which said that she'd been sexually harassed, which triggered an investigation, because she didn't want the official investigation. So then they had to go to the independent people, because they had to be seen to be doing that, because there was an official CRD notice. So she's done it all to herself. And then she's complaining about the fact that it's happening. And she doesn't want to take part in it, because obviously she doesn't want an investigation into her own behaviour, because she has no proof. But she wants all of the evidence that they've gathered and all of the stuff from the people that have spoken about it for her own separate case. So who's the one that's influencing who? Who's the one that's trying to extort information out of who? And nobody around her is stopping the insanity. And it's just day by day by. I mean, this last week has been absolutely crazy in terms of what's come out. So yeah, I kind of look at it all, and I can be a bit sad about it, because she's putting herself in an increasingly isolated position. Nobody wants to be around this stuff, not even her own husband. You know, this is never going away. The internet is forever, and her children have to grow up with that, and there's no concept of worrying about what that's going to do to the children's lives. You know, at this point they could all do with changing their names before they, you know, when they're between terms or whatever ages they are. They need a whole new identity, I think, at this point. But yeah, it indicates to me that there's a lack of real love in Blake's life, because if somebody truly loved her, truly cared about it, they wouldn't be facilitating what is going on. They would say, stop it right now, or we walk away, and there's no support for you. You're in it on your own. If you choose to take this further, you do it on your own. And I think that would shut it down, because she can't do it on her own, because she needs people to facilitate her. That's how she operates. But I think Ryan's kind of probably got a plan going on the side about why it doesn't matter so much whether she tanks her reputation, because he's just solidifying his position, I think, in other ways, I think. So I find that a bit sad. I don't know about you. I find that a bit of a sad state to think about, you as a person living in a situation like that, when nobody even cared about you enough to stop you from imploding your whole life. You know, maybe he even wants her to look irrational enough that she won't be able to hang on to her children. Who knows? We just don't know at this point. But yeah, that's the only way that I can manage to have a little bit of sympathy, because kind of otherwise I'm looking at it like, it's like, what's she doing? What? She what? You know, she's just completely saying nonsense at this point, and having her attorneys say nonsense on her behalf as well. And you know, this judge, you would think the judge at this point would be kind of getting annoyed, because I mean, he came down hard enough on Brian Friedman for doing what he called cluttering up the docket with things that he couldn't action, in terms of Brian's letter and his affidavit the other day about the Taylor Swift source. But surely all of this, filing like motions to sanction or whatever for filing a frivolous lawsuit, before the judges even had a chance to look at the 5 or 6 motions to dismiss that are already on the docket from that side of things. Surely the judge is kind of getting a bit annoyed at this point as well. He can't just say that it's all Brian Friedman's side that's kind of been annoying. Anyway, what do you think? What do you think it's says in terms of what's going on in Blake's life? Do you think kind of maybe Ryan's got a little thing going on the side where it kind of pays him to allow Blake to implode her life in some way, that there's some kind of, he's allowing her crazy to take wings because it puts her in a certain light? Or do you think they're still together and still bonded behind the scenes, and that there is love involved still? It's just a kind of love that most people don't want in their lives or can understand, really. It's codependence, isn't it, really? Not real love. And that is what I find sad, that she doesn't just have one person in her life who would have said stop. And the thing is, Taylor Swift might have been that person had she not been bandying Taylor Swift's name around all summer and implicating her in all kinds of things she may or may not have been implicated in. I would have thought that Taylor Swift or somebody like her might have been the one person to say, you know, Blake, I really don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea for your kids. I think it's going to take years and you won't understand what it'll take out of you, and just stop it. Just don't do it. It's not worth it. You know, nobody's telling her that. That's what she needed. Somebody to be the hard line and just say no. Because like I say, she couldn't have funded all of this on her own. So, you know, there's nobody there saying, I'm going to protect you from yourself. And that's what she really, really needs, I think. So yeah, that's my thoughts for today. It might have changed by tomorrow. But there you go. Please do hit that like, subscribe and share if you found that interesting at all. And I'll see you again soon.